Okay, here we
Greetings
go.
from the city of brotherly love. I am Fernando Mendez, host of the Round Table. We invite you to listen to our discussion of the themes of the day when we bring you regional, national, and international news. Greetings from the
Señores oyentes de USALA Radio, estamos aquí de nuevo con su programa La Mesa Redonda, The Round Table, from the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection. Since we have a special guest today, les habla Fernando Mendez. Estamos aquí en compañía de Rebecca Rhynhart. She's the city controller of the city of Philadelphia, and Danny Ramos and Pastor Phil control the board. So, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today? Yeah, I'm
I'm
happy
good.
to have you. Finally, as I said before the program opened, finally after so many tries and nothing on your end.
Okay, good.
Olo is here.
Good.
Once we decided, I mean, you have a very able assistant who actually made it very easy and understandable. So
Wonderful. Wonderful. I'm glad to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
yeah, well, I want to start with one thing I read that you
Okay.
said. This is not a hardball at all. Apparently, you believe that nobody can beat you at ping pong.
I'm sure someone can. I do get very competitive at ping pong, and I love ping pong. But I haven't played in a while. Do you play?
Yeah, I do play, and
Okay.
I used to think also that I was unbeatable, and then one of my engineers here surprised me because he kicked my ass before that. So
Oh, do you have a ping pong table there?
no, do you?
Okay. No, we
No.
have to find a place to play then.
Well, there's a spin downtown,
Okay.
some 15th and Walnut, I believe.
Okay.
A free ad for a spin. But yeah, look forward to that, among other things. That would be great. Um, so, a little bit of bio. I'm sure that maybe some people in our audience are not acquainted with who you are. So you are the city controller, and you came 2 years into the Kenya administration.
I was elected, right. I was elected in 2017 and took office in 2018. So
18.
you're absolutely
Right,
right.
right.
That's 2 years after Kenny took office.
Okay, so apparently, from what I read, you and Larry Krasner were all of a sudden an injection of what should we call it? Progressivism for the city.
Uh,
Is that how you see yourself, as a progressive?
I mean, I see myself as a change agent,
Okay.
and I think, yeah, progressive mean if you think progressive means moving forward and progress, I view myself as a disruptor in a positive way, or maybe a pragmatic but bold leader. That's what I try to sort of embrace. I think that there's common sense solutions to a lot of the issues facing the city, that we need courage as leaders, and often leaders don't show that courage. So those are some of the things, and I'm sure we'll talk more. But I ran for office back in 2017, never running for office before, because I felt that Philadelphia politics needed a change. And decided, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take my private sector background, my public sector background, working for the city government, and I'm going to run for office to make government work for people. And that's what I work to do, to make it work for people, not those that are connected.
Excellent. So your private sector background specifically?
Sure. So I started my career, I grew up in Philadelphia area, but I started my career up in New York City after graduate school working in finance. So I worked for Fitch Ratings, which is a bond rating agency, and then I worked for Bear Stearns on Wall Street. So I worked on, I was a managing director. I worked on interest rate derivatives, so complicated financial agreements between Wall Street and local governments. And I saw a lot there of uh, local governments, of cities across the country doing trades with Wall Street, but not truly understanding what they were doing.
Right.
And so not making the best decisions for taxpayers. And so I felt like, you know what? I don't want to work on Wall Street. I want to work for government. And I love Philly and I grew up in the area. And I want to go help city government work, truly work for people. I'm very idealistic. I believe it can work. And I'm a fighter. So I said, okay, I'm going to do this. So I came back to Philadelphia in '08 and was hired by then Mayor Nutter to be the city treasurer.
Okay.
So I was the appointed city treasurer and then the appointed budget director, and then stayed on for 1 year in Mayor Kenny's cabinet before deciding that if I was going to make the change that I wanted to make, that I had to run for office to try to do that. So that's what led me to run for office. I never thought years before that I would run for office.
Wow. Did you have the support of the Democratic Party in this city?
No, I did not. I ran in challenging a long-term incumbent.
Right.
So because of my financial background, when I decided that I wanted to run for office, I said, well, I could do the city controller job. The city controller is the financial watchdog, is the audit function of the city. And I thought I could do that. So I decided to challenge a long-term incumbent who was backed by the party, someone who was a ward leader himself. And I only had the support of one ward leader out of 69 ward leaders in the Democratic Party. But I won with 58% of the vote. So I think that says that Philadelphians truly want this change.
Excellent. So that's part of your personality is to fight against the odds, I suppose. In that
Yeah.
same vein, I read about something you found investigating your ancestry. So you found out a mix of a soup, a potpourri of races.
Yeah, you found some interesting information. You definitely did. But you're absolutely right. I did ancestry.com to figure out, what I am. And I knew that I was, my mother's family is Russian Jewish. So I knew I'm 50% Ashkenazi Jewish, but 50% is a mix of English and French Canadian, and then 12%, I think, Norwegian, which I have no idea where that came from. So,
Norwegian, yeah.
yeah,
Well,
I don't look at it all right, but
no, that means Mr. Trump will be happy to welcome you.
oh
Because
my God,
he
I don't.
he wanted more Norwegians. He wanted more Norwegians to come to this country.
I'm just, yeah, well, don't get me started on Trump.
Okay, hey, we have time for that. So, my friend and colleague Leticia Nixon has joined us. So, welcome, Leticia.
Good morning.
we're
Good
interviewing
morning.
Controller Rhynhart, as you know, and so you can join me and ask questions anytime you want to. I already asked the tough questions like how good are you at ping pong? So we'll find other questions to ask the controller. Um, Ms. Reinhardt, one of the things I read about people in positions of leadership is how disciplined they are with their schedules and so on. So, how do you start your day?
So I'm a morning person.
Okay.
So um, I wake up by 5. So I get up and I actually love the morning quiet before my house, gets busy. I do work in the morning. I wake up, I'm a coffee drinker. So I drink my coffee and I go through emails. I do things. Anyone that works for me knows that the emails start at about 5:30, 5:45. Now, I don't expect any answers to them. I'm not horrible to work for.
I don't know.
But
We'll find out.
oh no. But that is, and then my husband gets up. My daughter is in 6th grade, so she comes down at some point, and I do make breakfast for the family. I enjoy that. And then the day is off. The day is drop my daughter off at school, and then most mornings, unless if I have an early meeting, then I do that, and start. But that morning, like I would say, hour and a half of work is really important to me before everybody wakes up. It centers me in everything that's going to happen that day.
Yeah, well, excellent. Yeah, I'm a coffee drinker myself. I'm from Colombia. I probably began to drink coffee when I was probably like 6 months old. So, um, it's one of the parts of the culture that
Yeah.
is memorable. Um, so uh, once you get going with your schedule, day fills up, and as we were talking before, in your somewhat difficult election because you didn't have the support of the party, uh, did you find any other support? I mean, since you didn't have the party as such, you mentioned somebody helping you, but in this city, the black clergy is very important,
Yes.
and you know the black population in general is very important. So, how
Absolutely.
yeah, how is that going?
So when I first ran for city controller, I was really blessed and so grateful to get the support of the Black clergy in my election, which was a really, really big deal, because of the importance of the Black clergy, and also because that they were supporting me despite me being a challenger. And most people did not think I was going to win. They did not.
Right.
Uh, so I got the support of the Black clergy. I got I had the support of the Laborers Union, which is the largest African American population union in our city. And I then got the endorsement of Governor Rendell, and then got the newspapers. I got the Inquirer and the Daily News endorsements, and really just started to build up this momentum. And then I went everywhere. I mean, I still do. I love going out into different communities in our city and talking to people and hearing from people what every what people want from the government,
Right.
and how do we accomplish that, because the purpose of government is to serve the people. That's the purpose, and we see it so much in history in Philadelphia and across the country and world, that government doesn't serve the people, and what happens in those situations. And so to me, it's really important to have a lot of contact with people, and I think that through my run for city controller, that was felt, and that really just started something. And I also had about 70 house parties in 3 months to raise money. At 2, 3 a night, that type of thing. I was very supportive and continue, in office, working with the Black clergy and neighborhood groups and community activists, and really trying to use my office to push for equity in service delivery and to really help tackle the issues of our city.
So let's see if Leticia has a question, because she's someone who's been around investigating many issues in the different neighborhoods, schools, business, and so on. So Leticia, do you have any questions here?
Yes, in fact, I don't know if everybody knows what is a city controller.
Great
What
question.
does that person do? I don't know if you asked that before, but I was just reading, and it's very important. I would like to know because also you audit the school district of Philadelphia. You have to
Mhm.
do with the PGW. You have to do with the bonds, the boards, and pensions. So I think our audience would be interested about the school district and
Sure.
how is their work doing, because as you know, sometimes we're misinformed. We don't know if those funds were to fight the asbestos or to have better quality of water for the children. And the buildings, most of them are old buildings. So as a city controller, what is your role in making sure the the money is well used in the school district?
Those are great questions. So, first, Leticia, the city controller, you're absolutely right. Most people, and understandably so, most people don't know what the city controller does. So, the city controller is the independently elected financial watchdog over all the departments reporting to the mayor, as well as the district attorney and other offices. And my office is the financial auditor of the school district. We don't have the authority to do performance auditing of the school district. I tried that early on and learned that pretty clearly. That falls to the state auditor general. But with that said, um, you raise a lot of good points around the school district. And so what my office does, we do the financial audit of the city. We do an audit every year of every city department. And one of the first audits that my office did in 2018 was the audit of internal controls, which sounds boring and dry, but it's so important because internal controls are the safeguards that guard against fraud. And we that was the audit that identified the 33 million in missing or unaccounted for money. There was a big, the mayor got upset at me for that, said it was not missing, it was unaccounted for. There was a back and forth around that, but um, as my 11-year-old daughter said, well, if they don't know where it is, isn't that the same thing? Which sort of true. But um, with all seriousness, know that in all seriousness, for anyone that's ever worked a cash register, which I did back in high school, you know how important it is to be balanced. And if you're off a few dollars, you have to recount, right? And so to think about being off 33 million and not knowing where that is, that's a really big deal. So I've made a very big push on the city needing to improve those internal controls, especially with the history of certain elected officials having issues with corruption and that. So that's one of the things that my office has done and really pushed on. And then also we've done special audits on issues ranging from looking at the city's payouts for sexual harassment claims to reviewing the problems with the city's new payroll system, which was overpaying people, underpaying, paying people that left the city already, which, I mean, these things are unacceptable. But I feel that we need to call them out and say it out loud in order to fix it. And then on the school district, I am figuring out ways to get involved in the district, even though, and to be involved and have a voice, even though I don't have that performance auditor ability. I can't look at the school district and say, and analyze how well they're spending each dollar. We only have the financial audit ability, which is just tying the numbers together, if that makes sense. But we did do a mapping. My office has done a lot of work around mapping things and mapping asbestos issues in our schools. And I'll continue to do work around the school district. And I mean, because really, we have 200,000 kids in our schools, and that's the future, right? That's the future. I mean, we have to give them a shot. And when there's statistics like there are in our school district where only 40% of fourth graders are reading at grade level, that's completely unacceptable, and we have to figure it out. We absolutely have to.
Yeah, that's one of my main issues, has been education. I have addressed that on this program many, many times. A couple of questions in relation to what you just said. Before I ask you the questions, if you have just tuned in, we're in a conversation with City Controller for the City of Philadelphia, Rebecca Rhynhart, who is apparently a great ping pong player. So, Ms. Rhynhart.
Fernando, I really do. We're going to get coffee and play ping pong. That's what we're going to do.
Okay,
and
we'll
we'll put it on Facebook Live.
Great. Did you ever find that money that was missing or misplaced or unaccounted for?
Yes, the majority.
Okay.
All of it was located except for about 520,000, which did have to be written off.
Do you have any suspicions as to whether the $500,000 wouldn't?
Well, I mean, it could have been just a bookkeeping error, but the thing is that it's not known. And what led to that was the city's CFO is the finance director. The finance director works for the mayor. What led to that 33 million unaccounted for was that the city had, what we had found in 2018 was that the city had not reconciled its largest cash account in 3 years. And it's supposed to be reconciled every day. Every day, the money that people give in taxes is supposed to be matched to the bank account. Similar to balancing a checkbook.
Sure.
Every day it's supposed to be matched. Well, it wasn't matched for 3 years, which led to all of this. Now they are doing that, which absolutely it should be done. It's unbelievable that it wasn't. And, hopefully something like that never happens again. But that's why we need stronger internal controls.
Yeah, well, my dad was an accountant, and so
Oh.
he spent hours trying to match columns,
Yes.
He would be looking for a couple of pesos here and there, and it drove him crazy. So it's no small amount, that $500,000, but I guess at this point. Anyway, speaking of money, how are the city finances at this point?
Well, the city was hit hard by the pandemic. Of course, cities across the country and the world were. And Philadelphia, because it is so heavily dependent on wage tax, most cities in the country do not get most of their revenue from property tax. Philadelphia gets the largest portion of its tax revenue from wage tax. So that makes it more it's more sensitive, more economically sensitive to recession. So it was hit very hard. Thankfully, the American Rescue Plan that was passed by Biden and Congress was a lifeline to Philadelphia. We are getting $1.4 billion from the federal government. The school district is getting a separate $1 billion. So just to put that in a sense, to give a sense of scale for that, the city has about a $5 billion budget. And before the American Rescue Plan money was announced, Mayor Kenny said there was about a $450 million deficit. So he announced a $450 million deficit, and we're getting 1.4 billion. So this is a huge once in a generation opportunity that really not just could make up for lost tax revenue, but could be used for strategic investment in key areas, which is what I've put forth. My office put a report out on the American Rescue Plan saying this is what the money should be used for. We can start to tackle poverty, along with gun violence is so horrible right now in our city, and economic development, and help people making strategic investment in programs. Up to this point, the city, the mayor has just taken the first tranche, the 700 million that was received last May, and just put it into the general fund. That's
So
all continued.
that money is in the bank, in fact. I mean,
Yes, the
okay.
first 700 million was received this past May. The second 700 million will be received this May.
Okay.
And I think it is very important that it's used correctly, because it is such a generational opportunity. Usually the federal government does not give cities huge amounts of money with few strings attached.
Right.
So the American Rescue Plan money, the only limitations to use is that it can't be used for tax reduction, and it can't be used to fill the pension shortfall. But other than that, it's flexible. So I do think it's important that there's accountability and that there's strategy to how those funds are used.
Leticia, you have any questions here?
Well, just the importance of, as a city controller, to be independent from the mayor and city council. I think, does that make easier your job?
Yeah, it's very important for the controller, I believe, to be independent, and I think that I've shown that independence with actions that I've taken, and to me, this isn't, none of it's personal to me. To me, it's about doing a job and doing that job for the people. And when I first took office, I think there were definitely some calls I got from political people in powerful positions saying, "What are you doing? You can't do this. You're sort of tackling these issues or challenging things. We're supposed to." There's sort of this unspoken rule about electeds being friendly with each other. I mean, to me, that's not what it should be. What it should be, I mean, I try to have good relationships and I want people to like me, but that's, not the important thing, right? The important thing is to be independent and is to do my job for the people. And then the people can decide if I have my job or not.
Well, to all appearances, you're doing a great job from some of the reviews I have read.
Oh, thank you.
Detractors we all have. They're always around someplace, but in general, I think from what I know, you're doing a great job. So we're going to take a break here in USALA Radio. Están escuchando una conversación con Philadelphia City Controller Rebecca Rhynhart. Les habla Fernando Mendez, me acompaña Leticia Nixon, Danny Ramos and Pastor Phil at the controls. Regresamos en un minuto.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Amigos oyentes de USALA Radio, estamos aquí de nuevo con su programa La Mesa Redonda de Round Table, desde el corazón de la ciudad del amor fraternal, from the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection, because I have two ladies on my show today. Cannot neglect that. Danny Ramos and Pastor Phil at the controls. Les habla Fernando Mendez. Well, I have a question for you, Ms. Rhynhart, because I did my research, and at some point, I don't know if you said it or was attributed to you, that you were initially sort of naive about how you were going to proceed with controlling the city budget and so on. Was that a self-assessment, or was that not a true statement?
I think what you might be referring to is that I was surprised upon taking office, the level of pushback I got on things that just made sense to me, right? Common sense things. But I was breaking up sort of this entrenchment, right? And so I to outsiders, or people that are reporting on it, or people that also have been involved in politics for a long time, they would say, well, of course you're going to get that. You know, to me, I also had worked in the city government as an appointed official for about 9 years before deciding to run for office. So I think I felt like that perhaps I knew certain elements, but was surprised by the politics. Mm-hmm. Now I've gotten much better at it. You can ask my team what used to. My mind thinks differently about. It's like a chess game, right? So my mind thinks differently about how people will react, how people that are powerful in the political system in Philadelphia will react, and then how do I maneuver that? But yeah, at the beginning, I was surprised by the level of pushback, by the calls that I received. Why are you auditing this? You know, why are you looking at this? I said, because I told the people I would when I ran for office. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, that doesn't seem controversial to me. Like, so no. I said, I told them I would, you know, and I think things that perhaps were, so that might sound naive, right? And so, because it's a simpler way and it's tied to my idealism, but I've gotten used to it a little bit more.
Yeah, well, what it is optimism meeting reality, and you know, so.
Thank you. You put it much more succinctly than I did.
We know what happened to Socrates when he thought he could change people's minds. So, so let's hope nothing like that will happen to you. But
oh, thank you.
It's encouraging to see that somebody who came not from the political world has ideas and wants to change, and it's congratulations on that, because we don't encounter that courage every day. Which is, speaking of courage, is something lacking in Washington at this point. I mean, I do not understand the Republicans repeating the lie and insisting on it and doing all this stuff. But I don't know, that would take me into another direction, and I'm not going there today because that's what I do all the time.
No, no. I mean, I do think that courage is rare. And whether Democrat, Republican, quite frankly, I think that in Washington right now, it's scary what's happening with that the repeating of the lie around January 6th and the insurrection. So I do. I don't mean to take you off track when you to
No,
continue
no,
your
it's no, it's okay, it's okay.
but
No, absolutely.
but yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, we have a relatively young democracy, the
Right.
United States, compared to other countries, and democracy is strong but yet fragile. I mean, it has to be protected. So when there's something like this that happens, and there's fear of fascism, right? So
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
what your thoughts are on
I don't know. I mean, I have to believe in democracy, but I also think that there is some merit to the idea of a philosopher king. You know, when the Greeks thought that if you were the smartest person in the room, you should be ruling the country. So I don't know. That has nothing to do with
But then
democracy in that
it
sense.
gets to be like a little bit more. Is this person that thinks they're the smartest? Are they coming from an elite standpoint, and
Yeah.
then
Well.
losing, connection?
Yeah. Well, I'm in favor of the elites anyway. So just.
Fernando.
I'm just kidding. Uh, so uh, it's interesting to see what is happening in the city with since you addressed a little bit about education. I always believe that education is one way to get out of poverty, to build a good society, is to educate the people. And so I was very happy to see Mayor Kenny wanted to spend money on these pre-K programs. So is that ongoing? What are we doing? Are we investing more in that kind of effort?
So the pre-K, and I supported the soda tax because I support the programs that it's supposed to fund, pre-K and community schools, and improvements to our rec centers, the program
Right.
called Rebuild. Um, my office has found that only about 50% of that soda tax money has gone to those three things so far. So I have been outspoken saying that that money should be moved to a different account, to an escrow account, so that the people can clearly see what it's being used on. The mayor has not wanted to do that. But I'm with you and agree that pre-K is important, education is important, and it is a way out of poverty and to build a better society, which is why the issues with the school district are so troubling,
Yes.
because there's and some of the conditions, I mean, Leticia, to your point earlier, some of the conditions of the schools are horrible. I mean, I visited several schools in the last year where there's chunks of plaster falling off the ceiling, and teachers have told me that the kids brush the flakes of paint off their books and then, continue to do work, and that's not okay. And so how do we figure out how to change that? Because it should never just get a shrug of, oh yeah, what are we going to do? I don't think that's okay. I mean, my daughter is in 6th grade in a public school in Philadelphia school system. It's a very good public school. Um, but every school should be that way in our school system.
Exactly.
So, yeah,
Yeah. Are you in favor of charter schools?
I think that every parent that lives in Philadelphia should have the ability to send their kid to a good school.
Okay.
And whether that's a public school, a traditional public school, or whether that's a charter school, I think that it's the most important thing is that the schools are good. So I think a mix of schools is healthy. I don't think that there are some badly performing charters, which I think, should be closed. But the good charters are good. If you're a family that lives in a catchment area that is funneled into a neighborhood school that is not a good school and not good academically, not safe, the district cannot. I don't think it's fair to the families to say, "Oh, your kids have to go to this bad school because we're not
Right.
going to support charters." So I think it's important to give parents the ability to send their kids to a good school.
Well, thank you. In relation to that topic, there is great insecurity in the city. There's a high crime rate, a lot of killings in the city. Um, and obviously, we spoke already about the state of many of these buildings, the school buildings that are decrepit. Um, but how much of this is influencing your desire to form a commission to oversee the police budget regarding security and all that stuff?
So you're absolutely right. I mean, on the importance of addressing the crime. I mean, last year the homicide rate was the highest it's ever been in Philadelphia's history. And this city has kept track of the homicide rate since 1961. So what I've been doing, my office has been doing work around gun violence since 2019, looking at what has worked in other cities. And you might ask, well, as the city controller, how does that fit with your purview? In addition to the financial work of my office, I've also taken on issues that impact people because I think there is a connection between tax dollars and operations of the city and what people expect from their government, which is safety and good education and clean streets and lighting on the streets, basic services. So my office has done a lot of work around the issue of gun violence, and we just announced that we're doing an audit of the police department. The police department is the largest general fund spend from the city. And what that means is the largest operational spend that the city makes is the $725 million a year that the city spends on policing. So what I want to do with this audit is to look at operational deployment, resource deployment, to truly say, how is that money spent by neighborhood, by special units, and how does that compare to other cities and best practices?
Right.
How do we reimagine policing so that everyone feels safe? And so alongside with this audit, what my office is creating is a community council. And we are taking applications until Wednesday, February 16th at my office's website, controller.phila.gov. And what I want to do and why this is so important is to get people's voices into the audit process. So what we want is residents, activists, local small business owners from all of the neighborhoods of our city to be on this community council to answer the questions of what do you want from police? What do you want policing to look like? How does policing, how do we change policing so that people feel safe? Because I do think that we can have safety and justice at the same time. We have to get the racism out of all of our institutions, including policing. But that doesn't mean we don't need police. So I think that all of that, we need an answer to all of that. And for the last few years, because there's been such a strong debate about what to do with policing in our country, in Philadelphia, there's been money added to police's budget, to police spending, but the mayor's put it in other budgets so that it doesn't look like police are getting more money, but they are. And I think we need to just be upfront, and we need to be open about the conversation about what does policing look like, how much money is needed to do that, and how do we make changes
I have a
so
couple
that
of
everyone.
issues. I have a couple of issues about the
Okay.
spending of the police. But I don't know, this sounds like made to order for Leticia. I'm going to volunteer Leticia for this group. Anyway,
Okay. Wonderful. Leticia, do you agree? We'll
probably
talk
not.
later.
Probably not.
I do. I do.
Oh,
I
okay,
do,
great.
I do have an issue with so one thing that always bugs me is to see these highly trained officers in their cars with the lights on, protecting people who are working at the corner, like the water department or the electricians or some other construction site. When people who are, let's say, in charge of traffic or other people who are not necessarily the highest paid individuals can do the job
Right.
of helping this. So that I just put that on the table because it
Okay.
always bugs me to see that. And I don't know if that's going to change and all that, but it's
I
one
don't
of the
know, but that
issues.
would be, that is a question around deployment, right?
Right.
And do we need, and staffing. So I think that would be part of what we look at. So
Yeah.
I've made a note of
Yeah.
it.
Okay, great. So that's my small contribution, my grain of sand.
Oh, Fernando.
Yes, I would like to ask you on that same topic. I'm a freelance court interpreter, and I was in court, and many police officers were injured on duty, were
Mm.
sick, were not available. It's a huge backlog of cases due to the pandemic, and I read in the Inquirer that they might be investigating these police officers who say they are sick and they're not, because they have found out that some of them have a second job. So, what is your take on that?
So, Letitia, that is a very important and concerning issue. The article in the Inquirer detailed police abuse of something called heart and lung, which is a provision in Pennsylvania state law that allows a police officer, if injured on duty, to not work and collect 100% of their salary and not have to pay taxes.
Wow.
So it incentivizes bad behavior, because it incentivizes abuse, right, of that provision because there is no tax paid. There needs to be much more oversight over that. And that is something that my office's audit will be looking at. Because what the Inquirer detailed was that over 10% of the police force is on this injured on duty. And that is much higher than other police departments who have 3 or 4% out on injured on duty. And that some officers were found to be playing on a softball league, running a construction business while on injured on duty. I mean,
Right.
come on, the city has to do better than that. So, and it's not fair to all the good, hardworking officers who are trying their best on the force and not being supported by the other officers. So that is something that we absolutely have to get to the bottom of, to figure out what is going on and to reduce the fraud. Absolutely.
So if you just tune in, we are in a conversation with City Controller Rebecca Rhynhart, talking about several issues. So we are getting to the end of this wonderful program. It's been a great chat with you.
Yes.
Ms. Rhynhart. Many questions that we wanted to address. We probably need more time, but one question for you, because I also read that somebody or people keep asking you about whether or not you're running for mayor, and I wonder if you wanted to announce on my show.
So I will say there is a resign to run law in Philadelphia. So as soon as someone announces their intention to run, they have to resign their current job. But look, I love this city. I love this city. I'm deeply concerned about what is happening in our city with crime, with storefronts, closing, with, longstanding challenges such as poverty in schools. And I want to do the most that I can do. So I also love my job and do feel like I'm making an impact. So we'll see. To be continued.
To be continued. Well, we hope to invite you here when you want to announce something or other. So.
Okay, we can talk about that, but I can't confirm or deny anything at this point.
Well, in the meantime, we have a ping pong game to play, and then
Absolutely.
we'll talk about it. Well, Ms. Rhynhart, I really want to thank you for coming on our program today. A wonderful conversation, very informative. So again, thank you. And
Thank you for having me.
And thank you to Genevieve for facilitating this encounter. So.
Thank you.
And Leticia,
Well, thank you.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say thank you, Fernando and Leticia, for it's been just a real pleasure. So hopefully I can come back and maybe
absolutely.
at some point, we can do it in person at some point.
That would be wonderful. So thank you, Leticia, for coming on the show, for helping me today. This was really a very informative conversation, in large part due to your contribution. So, well, we have come to the end of this program. Señores oyentes de la Mesa Redonda de Round Table, les habló Fernando Mendez en compañía del City Controller de la Ciudad de Filadelfia, Rebecca Rhynhart, y mi amiga y colega Leticia Nixon. Danny Ramos and Pastor Phil at the controls. Hasta la próxima.
Greetings from the city of brotherly love.
Wow, that was great.
Host of the round table, we invite you to listen to our discussion of the themes of the day when we bring you regional, national, and international news.